Alright, now you're going to do the same thing with your bill. Now, make sure, because one of these outsides will end up being the middle, because after you fold it over, then, anyway, one will be in the middle. So, you want to make sure that at least two of the panels, because I've only got 3 panels in here, you want to make sure that at least 2 of the panels are just the same as the other with your patterns facing each other. So, you're going to pick your seam on here, and you're going to run it through just like the sides of the hat. Start off, back stitch, now set. Now make sure everything's lined up. That's that. Alright, so now you're going to bring all your panels over here to the ironing board. And what you're going to do on these panels, you're going to turn them. This is going to be right side out. Now, where your seam is that you sewed, you're going to pick one side or the other. And in my iron, I like to use steam just because it seems to hold a little better. But what you're going to do is lay it flat and push it all the way to the side. And the purpose of this is to get this seam to lay down flat. Just like that. So you want it to lay to one side of your fabric. I know that that's such a terrible contrast and it's hard to see, but I'll show you why here in just a second. And so you're gonna do that with both of these quarter pieces, and then you're going to take your bill, and this is where it's so important to get your seams lined up. Now you're going to take it and you're going to flip it inside out also, and you want to do the same thing with that as far as the seam goes. So you want to get a nice crease in it all the way through where it lays flat on the inside. And then where that crease is, you want to fold it and then flatten it out again. And what that's going to do is going to help everything stay together and keep it from stretching out and giving you some really terrible, ugly lines in it. So if you can see that, see how flat it is. There's our sewing seam. We got a nice flat piece. Now the other thing, before you sew these, you're going to want these to be flat too. And there's a bunch of little strings hanging off of it and stuff. You can just pull those off. But you want to lay it down flat and make sure and get it good and hot, good and flat. So you come out with that. That way, whenever you go to put it all back together, all your angles or all your edges are straight in line with each other. I'm gonna finish that up and I'll see y'all at the sewing machine. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do when you come back is where this seam is. You want to hide this seam, and you're going to double stitch it, because this part of the hat is going to take more of the sparks and the abuse than just about the rest of any other part of it. So what you're going to do is take this seam and line it up with your needle right here, and you're going to put another stitch through the hat. So you'll line it up like this, right on the edge. You'll run it through like that. I'll show you what happens in just a second. So now what you're left with, instead of a seam that's just flopping around inside the hat all crazy, is you've actually sewed it to the hat where it lays flat all the time. Okay. All right. Okay. So now you're going to take your bill. It's folded inside out. You can see. You can focus on it. Let's see. You can see that this is going to be the way it is. All right. Now what happens now is it's real floppy. So you're going to want to take right along the edge of this seam. You're going to want to run. You're going to want to run a stitch over the seam, and then I like to do just 3 round stitches up the bill, just to keep everything laying flat. So we'll run through that real quick. Alright. That way your seam doesn't want to get floppy or fluff up or anything like that. Alright, now what you want to do is you want to get on the edge. You want to take a little wider seam and get on the edge of that and run 3 more. Alright, now this is what you got when you're done. Now, I know I probably should have used a bigger contrast in fabric and thread, but you can kind of see all the little stitches right there. So now you're going to be good and flat. You're ready to sew that. So moving on, you're going to move on to your headband material. Now you've got your pattern side, and then you've got your back side. Now you're going to take 2 of your headband pieces, and you're going to put the pattern sides, you're going to put them together to make your stitch. Now this you'll be able to see a lot better because I'm going to use the same thread for this as I did the rest of the hat, so it'll be a bigger contrast. Now put it in here, line your seam up, and just run this first one, run the first one all the way through. Okay, so now I ran this piece all the way through. Now you've got a nice little seam to double up on your headband. So on the next one, you're going to take, let's see if I can angle you down a little bit more without totally messing it up. Okay, so now you're going to take one piece of your headband and you're going to take your bill and you're going to get it about in the middle. You can measure if you want, but it's up to you. So you're going to take and you're going to line one edge of your bill up with the edge of this piece of the headband, and then you're going to take your other piece and lay it just like that. Now whenever you sew this, you're going to sew it just like it sits. You want everything lined up and run one seam all the way through, and then you'll be left with the headband with the bill already attached. So I'm gonna do that now. All right, so we got that done. We went ahead, this is our folded sides, ran the seam all the way through, all the way out to the end. So now when you flip it over, your bill is already in your headband. All right, so pick one side of this. What you're gonna do is you're gonna center this. You're gonna take one of your other pieces that you already have, and then you're gonna lay it across here to center. Now what I usually do is take this seam right here and I'll lay it in. You're gonna lay it in backwards like this, and then you're going to find your bottom, which is going to be your straight side, and you're going to line this seam up with the middle of your bill on the yellow, on the the actual color part of your headband. So, and then you're gonna run a seam through here. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll show you the result here in just a second. Okay. So we ran it through on the side with the bill on it, and here's what you got. You got half of the piece that you're going to use for the hat. So that's what she'll look like. Alright, so now you're going to take the other piece, the piece of the headband without the bill, and the other piece that you've already sewn up in the 2/4, and you're going to run it just like you did with the side with the bill. Okay, so now you got your 2 halves made. You got 1 half with the bill, and then the other half just the rest of the hat. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to put them together. Now you've got to put them together outsides facing each other. So I turn one right side out, and I turn one inside out. Okay, and you want to lay them down on top of each other, and you want to kind of line your seams up. They're actually going to be staggered just a little bit, and you can't help that. But so you're going to do that, and then you're going to come down here to these corners. The most important part is lining these corners up, because whenever you go to sew through it, that's going to be the big deal. Is you want those 2 headband pieces to line up straight. And come down, make sure you're all good on the other side, line those up, and you're going to start right on the edge. Now whatever it takes to get these 2 pieces lined up, because you're going to start kind of in the middle of nowhere because your pieces are random, and you're going to do a straight stitch up to here, and then follow the actual headpiece around to where it comes down this side, and then you're going to run a straight stitch down this part. So if you need to make marks, do that. If you got a square or whatever you want to do, but it's pretty important as far as the fit on your head. So I'm gonna run that, and I'll show you the product here in just a second.